Friends, I hope you will enjoy our story. If you like the story, please like the video, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe. Also, don't forget to press the notification bell so you can get the latest updates first. My name is Poonam, and I got married into a middle-class family. Besides my husband, my in-laws included my mother-in-law, father-in-law, elder brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and her grown-up daughter. There was no shortage of anything in my in-laws' house. After my marriage, when I arrived at my in-laws' home, I was very happy. Every night, my father-in-law would apply Move gel on my back, which gave me great relief and helped me sleep peacefully. However, in the morning, my entire body would be swollen, and I would have red marks all over. I wondered how these marks appeared. I started suspecting my father-in-law, so one night, I replaced the Move gel tube with another one and pretended to sleep. Just 15 minutes had passed when I saw my father-in-law doing something that made my hair stand on end. After completing my studies, my parents decided to get me married. I married the son of my father's close friend. My father-in-law and my father were good friends in their childhood, but their friendship had faded after their respective marriages, and they rarely met. However, one day, my father saw his friend's son, now my husband, and liked him a lot. My father immediately spoke to my father-in-law about the marriage proposal. My father-in-law mentioned that he was looking for a bride for his son, and that's when my father thought of me and told him about me. When my future in-laws came to see me, they liked me at first sight, and that's how my marriage was arranged. The old friendship between my father-in-law and my father was rekindled, and that's how I ended up leaving my home and coming to my in-laws' house. My father-in-law treated me very well. My sister-in-law also treated me just like a sister, and her daughter became my close friend. I quickly adjusted to my in-laws' household and understood everyone's behavior. My husband was also very caring and looked after me well. He was a genuinely good person. 4 months after our marriage, my husband had to go to another city for work. He told me that he had been granted a month's leave, but I insisted that he extend it by a week, which he did. However, there was no scope for any further extension. I felt very sad about his departure and kept wondering how I would manage without him. Just the thought of it made me cry and feel distressed. God has created such a deep bond between husband and wife that it's hard to stay apart, and the distance becomes unbearable. My marriage was still very new, only 4 months old, and I couldn't imagine living without my husband. But the day of his departure arrived, and he left for 3 months for work. After he left, I felt sad all day and didn't talk to anyone. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law consoled me a lot. My sister-in-law's daughter always tried to make me laugh, and everyone kept reminding me that I wasn't alone in this house and that they were there for me. Seeing the love and care of my in-laws, I started to feel better. My husband would also call me every day and offer me a lot of comfort and reassurance. Gradually, I started feeling normal again. 15 days had passed since my husband left, but something strange started happening to me. I couldn't understand why these things were happening, and I didn't know how to explain it to anyone because I was confused myself. Every night, we all drank tea before going to bed. My sister-in-law would personally prepare tea for everyone and deliver it to each room. As usual, everyone drank their tea. That night, I drank my cup of tea and fell asleep peacefully. It was very cold, and I had loved tea since before my marriage. I fell asleep quickly after drinking the tea. When I woke up the next morning, I noticed a strange smell around me. As I gradually opened my eyes, I realized it was the smell of Move gel. I opened my eyes fully and looked around, but there was nothing unusual. However, when I looked at my hands and feet, I was shocked to see red marks all over them, and my hands and feet were swollen. I stared at them in disbelief, unable to remember applying Move gel before sleeping. My entire body was covered in red marks. I was terrified and quickly sat up, wondering how this had happened. Thinking about it, I went to the bathroom to take a bath. As water touched my hands and feet, the red color started washing off. But why had these red marks appeared all over my body? I was breathless with fear. My entire body was covered with these red marks, and I was so frightened that tears welled up in my eyes. It was a bizarre experience because nothing like this had ever happened to me before. I had no idea what to do. Fear consumed me completely. Every time I washed off the red color in the bathroom, the swelling lessened but didn't go away entirely. My body was trembling, and I lay down on the bed, scared of what was happening to me. Strange thoughts raced through my mind. Who could have put this red color on my body? Was this some sort of prank? Or had an insect bitten me, causing a reaction? The thought of Mooney, my sister-in-law's daughter, playing a prank crossed my mind. This idea gave me some relief, as I wasn't feeling any pain or discomfort. When I went downstairs for breakfast, everything seemed normal. Everyone was already at the table, waiting for me. Seeing my gloomy face, my mother-in-law asked, "What's wrong, dear? You look upset." I replied, "No, Mother, it's nothing. I'm fine." However, looking at everyone's faces, it didn't seem like anyone had played a prank on me. Then, my father-in-law smiled at me and asked, "What's wrong, dear?" "Your face looks so downcast." I replied, "Nothing, I just miss Nitesh a lot." Nitesh was my husband's name. Everyone reassured me, telling me not to worry, saying, "You'll get used to it over time." I wanted to ask them who had put those red marks on my hands and feet. The marks on my hands had faded, though, and the rest of my body was clear. I couldn't ask them anything, but instead, they started asking me questions. Mooney, my sister-in-law's daughter, noticed the marks on my hands and asked, "Aunt, why did you put lipstick on your hands? It looks like you tried to wipe it off, which is why there are marks." Hearing this made me certain that none of them were responsible. I just smiled at Mooney's comment. For a few days, nothing unusual happened. My mother-in-law's health started deteriorating, and everyone's attention shifted to her. Unfortunately, the day we feared came. Her condition didn't improve, and she passed away. My mother-in-law was a kind woman. During her lifetime, she never treated me or my elder sister-in-law badly. Both of us loved her dearly, and she treated us like daughters. She had no biological daughters, but gave her daughters-in-law the love of a mother. Her affection is still fresh in my heart, but perhaps that was all the time she was destined to have. My husband returned home after his mother's death, and I supported and loved him through his grief. He was devastated and in shock over his mother's sudden passing, but he had to return to work eventually. 10 days after the funeral, he left again. By then, I had forgotten the strange incident with the red marks and the move gel smell. The atmosphere in the house remained somber, but life moved on and everyone slowly returned to their routines. One day, I had severe back pain. My father-in-law noticed my troubled expression and asked, "What's wrong, dear?" "Are you feeling okay?" I replied, "It's nothing, just some back pain today." He sat beside me, gently placing his hand on my head, and said, "Don't mind, but can I apply Move Gel on your back? It will relieve your pain completely." I felt very hesitant and said, "No, I'll apply it myself. There's no need for you to do it." He laughed and said, "What's the big deal? You're part of this family. I used to massage your mother-in-law's back when she had pain, and it always helped. She used to praise me a lot, saying that my massages could relieve anyone's back pain instantly. But if you consider me an outsider, that's fine." He seemed disappointed. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I reluctantly agreed. That day, everyone had gone to the temple except my father-in-law. Due to my back pain, I hadn't gone. I lay down, and he went to his room to get the Move Gel. He began massaging my back thoroughly, and it felt very soothing. When he finished, he smiled and asked, "How do you feel now?" I laughed and replied, "You give excellent massages. My back pain is completely gone." He said, "Now, let me massage your legs with the same Move Gel. You'll feel even better." Before I could say anything, he started massaging my legs. I hesitated, but stayed quiet. The smell of the Move Gel was very strong. After he finished, he left, and everyone else returned from the temple. I felt so relaxed that I went to my room and lay down. a strange drowsiness overtook me. I felt so much comfort and peace that I fell into a deep sleep without realizing it. The sleep was incredibly peaceful and soothing. That night, I slept deeply and peacefully. I woke up when I felt the presence of someone in the room. I wanted to open my eyes, but sleep had such a strong hold on me that I couldn't open them. When morning came, I was terrified again. I tried to regain my senses several times, but what I saw made me frightened once more. There were red marks on my hands and feet, and the smell of move gel was so strong, it seemed like the massage had been done, not last night, but just a little while ago. However, I clearly remembered that the move gel massage had been done the previous night. Then, why was the smell so intense in the room now? When I checked my whole body in the bathroom, I saw red marks all over my body again. The same incident had happened once more, and I began to cry. I poured water over my entire body, trying to wash off the red marks. I was terrified, wondering how this could be happening. Who was putting these red marks on my hands, feet, and body without me even feeling it? Strange thoughts swirled in my mind. Was someone else responsible for this? I had always been fearful, and the thought that someone else might be behind this made me panic even more. I even started to fear myself, wondering who was applying this red substance to my body while I was asleep, without me knowing. When I tried to wash off the marks in the bathroom, they would fade, but some faint traces remained. My mind was spinning, and I felt like I should tell my husband about this. Thinking about it all made my head ache, and I began to feel unwell. After finishing my work, I went to my room, lay down, and decided to take some medicine. When I opened the drawer to get the medicine, I saw several packets of move gel inside. There were many tubes of move gel. That's when I realized that these were the same move gel packets responsible for the smell in my room. But the strange thing was, how did so many of them end up there? I only had one tube of move gel. I had never bought so many, nor had I used that much. The move gel my father-in-law had used the previous night was from his room. So, why were so many move gel tubes in my drawer? Lost in these thoughts, I forgot that I had originally opened the drawer to get my medicine. The smell of move gel was so strong that I noticed the packets from a distance. When I inhaled the scent, I started feeling dizzy. I put the move gel packet back and began wondering what kind of gel it was, with such a peculiar smell, and why so many tubes were in my room. Suddenly, a realization hit me. When I looked at my hands and feet, I noticed red marks with swelling, and a strong scent of move gel emanated from them. I was terrified. What was happening to me? How did these red marks appear on my body? Seeing the move gel tubes, it felt like someone had used them, possibly on me. I left the room and behaved normally. After that, I went to the kitchen, prepared breakfast, and spent the entire day busy with household chores. Despite everything, I was tense. I convinced myself that nothing would happen that night, but I was wrong. The next morning, when I woke up, the red marks were all over my body again, and this time, there was even more swelling. Seeing this, I let out a loud scream that echoed throughout the house. Hearing my screams, my sister-in-law and Mooney rushed into my room. They were shocked to see the red marks and swelling on my body and stared at me intently. My sister-in-law asked, "What happened to you? How did these red marks appear?" I didn't know what to do. Summoning courage, I began explaining what had been happening to me and how long it had been going on. Both of them continued to stare at me, almost glaring. Then my sister-in-law said, "You must have eaten something last night that caused the swelling. These look like lipstick marks. You probably applied it on yourself and forgot to wash it off before sleeping, so it transferred onto your clothes." Hearing this, I cried even more, wondering how to convince them that I hadn't done anything like that. After a while, I nervously told them that someone was coming into my room at night and doing this to me. Hearing this, both mother and daughter looked at each other and said, "No one can come into your room. Everyone in this house minds their own business. You must be mistaken." With that, they told me to take a bath and cleaned my hands and feet, then asked me to join them for breakfast so we could talk afterward. I took a bath, changed my clothes, and cleaned my room before coming out. My father-in-law noticed my worried expression and asked, "What's wrong, dear? You look troubled." I told him everything that had happened. He fell silent for a moment and then said, "Don't worry, I'm here for you. I won't let anything happen to you." His words gave me some comfort. Later, my sister-in-law came to me and said, "Don't be afraid. There's nothing like that in our house. You're getting worried for no reason. I've been married for 18 years and never experienced anything like this. Even our mother-in-law never faced anything like what you're describing. How could someone enter your room without you noticing? That's impossible. You probably apply lipstick yourself, and maybe it spreads from your hands without you noticing. You forget about it and fall asleep. It's just your imagination, nothing else," said my sister-in-law. Hearing this, I looked at her and said, "How can you be so sure that it's just my imagination? How could I forget something so significant?" She tried to explain her point, but I couldn't accept it, because what had happened to me was very strange. I knew now that I would have to handle this on my own. They would never understand my side of the story. Finally, I decided to go along with what they were saying. I got busy with my daily chores as usual. The next morning, the same thing happened again. There were red marks on my body, and the strong scent of Move Gel filled my room. This time, I wasn't surprised. I was furious. I was determined to find out the truth about why this was happening to me, and who was behind these actions that kept troubling me. I thought about it and opened the drawer where those Move Gel packets were still kept. An idea struck me. What if this Move Gel was causing me to fall into a deep sleep? There must be something wrong with this gel. I couldn't fully understand the situation, but I knew I was about to uncover the truth. I quickly ordered 2 new packets of Move Gel and compared them with the ones in my drawer. There was a significant difference between them. The gel from the market was different from the one in my room. I removed the strange Move Gel packets from my drawer and replaced them with the new ones I had bought. I had no idea who was behind these bizarre actions, but I was determined to find out. As night approached, my interest in uncovering the truth grew even more. Finally, night fell. We all ate dinner together, and then everyone went to their rooms to sleep. As soon as I entered my room, I pretended to fall asleep because I had to find out who was behind all this. I wasn't going to sleep tonight. I would stay awake to uncover the truth. It was midnight when suddenly my room door opened. My father-in-law entered the room, and I secretly opened my eyes to watch everything. He was carrying a bag in his hand. Their strange entry into my room at such an odd hour felt extremely suspicious. What business could they possibly have here at this time? Why had my father-in-law come into my room, and what was his intention? Suddenly, I heard another man's voice. There was someone else in the room with my father-in-law. I tried to open my eyes slightly and saw that, along with my father-in-law, there was a man dressed in a bizarre way. He looked like some kind of occult practitioner, a tantric baba. Seeing both of them in my room filled me with fear, but I tried to stay in control. My mind raced with terrifying thoughts as the man sat down in front of me. I continued pretending to be in a deep sleep, my eyes firmly closed. The man said something to my father-in-law, who then sat down beside me and took out the Move Gel. He began applying it to my feet, and I could smell the strong scent of the gel. I could sense everything clearly. I wanted to sit up and slap my father-in-law because he had started sliding his hands under my sari, applying the gel all over my body. My urge was to scream and wake everyone up, exposing what was happening to me. But I knew I couldn't do that just yet. Then the man spoke. "With this Move Gel applied, she is now unconscious. This isn't ordinary gel. We've mixed it with certain substances. When the scent reaches her nose, she'll stay unconscious, and applying this to her entire body will numb her. She won't feel anything." He added, "We won't be affected by the scent because we've stuffed our noses with cotton. The effect will be entirely on this girl." Hearing this, I understood why I would always lose consciousness and feel nothing. Shortly after, the man started chanting some mantras and blowing on me. Then, he instructed my father-in-law to leave the room. My father-in-law obeyed and walked out. I was terrified, unsure of what the man planned to do next. He began touching my body, running his hands over me. I lay there, helpless, even though I wanted to resist. My heart pounded furiously. Then he started applying something red to different parts of my body. After finishing, he called my father-in-law back into the room. When my father-in-law entered, the man said, "Just 2 more days. We need to repeat this treatment one more time, and then your daughter-in-law will fall in love with you." Hearing this made my whole body tremble with shock and horror. I felt as if my life was slipping away. My heart pounded with fear, realizing what my father-in-law had orchestrated. Hearing those words, he burst into loud laughter and said, "This is exactly what I want. I want my daughter-in-law to fall for me, leave my son, and love me instead. I desire this girl deeply." After saying this, they both left my room. I was so terrified, staring at myself, unable to believe what had just happened. Never in my worst nightmares had I imagined something like this. I couldn't accept that this was reality, that my own father-in-law could do such a thing and harbor such vile intentions toward his son's wife. I couldn't process it. It felt unreal. Once they left, I quickly got up and locked my room from the inside. I rushed to the bathroom and washed off all the marks from my body, trying to figure out what to do next. It was already 1 a.m. In desperation, I called my husband. After several attempts, he finally picked up. I spoke to him, crying, and hearing my distress, he grew alarmed, repeatedly asking why I was crying. I told him, "I don't know what's going on, but you must be home by morning. If you're not here, I'll leave this house." Then, I hung up the phone. The next morning, I stepped out of my room. My father-in-law was sitting in the living room, watching TV. When he saw me, a smile spread across his face. But this time, I felt that behind that smile lay a sinister, monstrous face. By 9 a.m., my husband arrived home. He asked me, "What happened? Why did you call me here so urgently?" Everyone in the house was present, eager to know why he had come home so suddenly and what the matter was. I didn't know how to reveal the truth about my father-in-law. Gathering all my courage, I finally told them everything. As I spoke, and all the dark secrets spilled out, my father-in-law's face fell. His expression changed, but then my husband, furious, slapped me in front of everyone. I had expected this. No one would believe me. Suddenly, my father-in-law interjected, "What kind of accusation is your wife making against me?" My husband grabbed my hand and started dragging me out of the house. I pleaded with him to see the evidence. I broke free and ran to my room, grabbing the hidden camera where I had recorded everything that had happened the previous night, including my father-in-law and that man entering my room. Everything that those people were doing to me was recorded on camera. My husband was utterly ashamed when he saw the video. All the family members watched that video, and after that, my father-in-law stood with his head bowed. He fell at the feet of my husband and me, begging for forgiveness, saying, "Please forgive me. I was captivated by my daughter-in-law's beauty. Since the day she married into this family, I have been infatuated with her. That's why I was performing black magic on her with the help of a tantric baba. What happened was truly terrible. It tarnished my dignity in front of the entire family. My husband was torn between his wife and his father. He couldn't throw his elderly father out of the house at this age, so he took me with him to another city where he worked. However, my husband cut all ties with his father. Witnessing these events, my sister-in-law also moved to a separate house. Now my father-in-law was left alone in that house. All he could do was regret his actions deeply. My brother-in-law would occasionally visit to bring him food, but no one else spoke to him, and a servant was hired to take care of his other needs. I am happy living in another city with my husband, but I still feel deep regret about my father-in-law's disgusting behavior. The ointment he used to apply was not ordinary. It contained harmful substances that would numb my body. The tantric baba would apply red powder all over my body, causing it to swell. Because of that ointment, I wouldn't be aware of what was happening to me. It was a terrifying experience. My husband promised me that he would never leave me vulnerable again and would always take care of me. Now I am very happy with my husband. Friends, I hope you liked our story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and don't forget to press the notification bell so you'll get all the updates.